Hi everyone, my name is Juan Sequeda and I'm the principal scientist at Data.World and co-host of Cataloging Cocktails, the honest, no BS, non-salesy data podcast. I'm excited to join the MIT CDOIQ Symposium and looking forward to having honest, no BS discussions about the data challenges that keep you up at night. At Data.World, we believe that when the world's data is transformed into knowledge, opportunities emerge for everyone. Looking forward to meeting you soon.
I would like to welcome our in-person and virtual audience to track 4, Translating Data into Actionable Insights. The session this hour is How to be Agile in a Data Mesh. Data mesh is both a hot and controversial topic. The idea behind data mesh is to help companies scale their ecosystems to extract value from data in a timely manner with the following assumptions. Data should be treated as a product. Data should be stewarded by domain teams who are close to the data and they know the data better than any other team in the organization. Data should be governed with a federated governance model. So how do you balance centralized architectures and a decentralized paradigm like data mesh? And that's what Juan Sequeda is here to talk about.
Oh.
Juan, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi. Thank you very much. So, good afternoon, everybody. Let me just go dive in. Okay, I had to put Data.World. If you're not aware about Data.World, we're an enterprise data catalog. And when we submitted the slides, this was actually before the Forrester Wave came out. So we're actually a leader in the Forrester Wave. That came out a couple of weeks ago. One of the things that we focus a lot is about adoption. And I think that's one of the things that we want to be talking about measurement around this. But besides Data.World, about myself, I'm the principal scientist at Data.World. I've been at Data.World for a couple of years since I acquired my previous company. I carry my academic hat. I did my PhD at the University of Texas at Austin, where I've been working a lot about data integration with semantics, knowledge graphs, written a couple of books. And as I mentioned kind of in the intro video, I host a podcast called Cataloging Cocktails. So what I'm going to be talking about here is a lot of the learnings that I've had over almost 2 years that we've done this podcast. We've done 95 episodes. And I had to write some of the names. Just in the last kind of 6 to 8 months, we've had vendors such as, Matillion and Gong, Andy Palmer from Tamer, who's here, the CDO of DataStax, CEO of Neo4j, a lot of practitioners like Omer Kajwala from Roche, who's done a lot of the data mesh, Lutz Lewinsky from Prologis, folks from Intuit, McKinsey, the CDO of McKinsey was on it, and a lot of thought leaders who are here too. So we've had Doug Laney, Sanjeev Mohan, Cindy Howson, Bob Muglia. So a lot of the stuff that I'll be presenting here are things that kind of is what we've been looking at of what is data mesh and how to be agile, and it's just learnings that I've been having, the opportunity I've had to talk to so many people. So why data mesh? And I think this is the issue. Everybody hears now data mesh such a popular thing. So what is the problem? I'm thinking just to kind of all get on the same page what the problem is. Lost the slides. Okay. I think hopefully we're in agreement here that monolithic kind of data architectures, they are really hard to scale. And the scaling part is not the technical aspects, it's the social aspects. I think this is one of the things that, if the main takeaway of data mesh is that it is a social technical paradigm shift. And the other thing is that data is really treated as an afterthought. And why do we care about this is that, IT is the bottleneck, right? It's a centralized bottleneck, and this is the problem, and that value is really left untapped. So I think, how many people here, I think hopefully you've seen the 4 pillars of data mesh. So I'm not going to repeat them, just here they are. So Cataloging Cocktails is called the honest, no BS, non-salesy podcast on purpose because to be honest, I don't have time for BS. I want to just get into the real, kind of the meat of stuff. So the first thing, this is Juan Sequeda's honest, no BS view of what is data mesh. And actually, let's forget about data mesh for a second. Is we need to start thinking about data management from a social technical point of view. For the last 30 plus years, whatever, right? For us, managing data has been we've been looking at it from a technical perspective. Today, the problems that we talk about today, you go look at all the articles, even written in MIT, Sloan Magazine, all this stuff, are the exact same problems that we had 30 years ago, right? So Einstein's definition of insanity, keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Yes, we have gone to the cloud. The technology has advanced us, but we have to agree that we've literally hit a wall, and technology is not the answer anymore. And if you don't agree with that, I honestly think that you just have the head in sand. You have to go make this change. So it is a social technical paradigm shift, which you need to start talking to people. And as technologists, we don't like to talk to people. That's the problem. So technology is not the defining characteristic here. I think hopefully you've heard this over and over again, if somebody is selling you a data mesh, please run away as fast as possible from that vendor because that is BS. So the important aspects about data mesh here is one, treating data as a product. And the second thing is finding that balance between centralization and decentralization that works best for your company, for your organization, for your culture, for your industry, for the size of your company, for the time that you are in today, and that will evolve. So honestly, forget about the word data mesh. And I personally believe now that we need to start treating data as a product. And I think we need to go find this balance between centralization and decentralization. And if you agree with that, that's data mesh, and then let's put that controversy to the side. So let's get into the real details here. So honestly, I really want to go spend the most of the time here is talking about what does treating data as a product mean. And this is something that we've kind of struggled a bit, and it's like, okay, this is not part of the buzzwords about data products. And I think if you were in the ThoughtWorks session earlier this morning, who was there if you saw it? So they actually had this really nice kind of, when they were talking about the Saxo Bank, they were showing about the Amazon experience. And I think that's the way we need to start thinking about data, about understanding what does data as a product mean. It's the same way we go shop for data on Amazon. And it's not just like, I mean, a lot of vendors out there have the whole analogy put into a shopping cart, but it's really about, I go to Amazon and it's magical. I can go buy whatever I want, and in minutes I can order, it gets delivered to my house. That's the experience I want with data. And you need to understand who those consumers are, and then obviously be use case driven. I mean, this isn't rocket science. We always talk about this stuff. But so Tim Gasper and Tim Gasper is our VP of product, and he's my co-host at Cataloging Cocktails. We've been thinking about, okay, what does this data product actually mean? And we've come up with a cute little called the ABCs. I think the folks at ThoughtWorks this morning, were talking about that. They're like, oh, they don't have a good definition for it. There was all these different words, letters here. ABCs, I want to go through all of these right now. So a data product essentially needs to be providing business value. That's what it is. It's data that's providing business value. And it's a real data product that's providing direct business value, right? Literally, how am I making money? How am I saving money? You need to be able to go tie this. So, ABCs, accountability. Who's responsible? Who's the owner? I've had these discussions with Doug Laney so many times. He doesn't like the word ownership. He likes to call it trustee. I've had these discussions with Laura Madsen. She doesn't like that. She likes the word ambassador. The concept here, who's accountable for this stuff, right? Who's going to take that ownership? I'm like, I'm really excited, and I love this data, and I want it to be used. And as an ambassador also, think about it. If you think about a product, like any other product that I'm building, I'm going to buy this water bottle. You want to have marketing around this stuff too. I want people to go use my data. So who's the responsible owner, trustee, the ambassador of this data? Who's responsible for it? Who's going to define the requirements? By the way, I'm not giving you answers to these things. I'm just giving you a bunch of questions that I hope you and the audience are going to leave saying, wow, I should be asking all these questions to my data team, to my business users. Who fixes it when it breaks? Somebody's going to be calling it, right? Every software companies they sell pagers. Somebody's on call. Who's on call when somebody breaks, right? Where does the liability sit? It's actually I've been promoting, kind of asking people about this, and somebody asked me like, hey, you should actually include like liability. And by the way, I really want this to be an open discussion, and I know this is just a 30-minute talk. I'll be around here all week because I really want to be able to get feedback from the audience, from the community. Is like, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What's missing? So that's accountability. Boundaries. As a product manager, right, people think about it. It's like, what is this thing? And what isn't it, right? People like product, people will literally draw a box. And they'll say, is it inside the box? Is it outside the box? Where will it live? What are the inputs and outputs? What are we expecting the data to receive? How is that data supposed to be used? What is the roadmap for this product? How is it going to evolve based on what requirements? Contracts and expectations. What is the purpose of this data product? This data product is being defined for what types of use cases? How is it being monitored and tested? What are the SLAs? What are the SLOs? How are the agreements? What is the literal contract of this data that I can go use it, right? What are the policies behind it? And then what are the purposes? Who are the users and how are they expecting to access the data? Do they want a CSV? Do they want a table in Snowflake that has SQL access? Do they want a dashboard? Do they want an API? Do they want to have a graph? Do they want to have a Panda? Do they want an S3 bucket? And it could be the same type of data in different formats, depending on the consumers. You probably, depending on who the consumers are, you're going to start with something and just keep expanding. How is it being kept secure? Who can see it? Who can use it? These are all the types of questions that we need to go have. Who are the downstream consumers? Who is asking for this data and why? Who are the potential consumers of this too, right? As a product manager, we think about this and we're like, well, I'm going to do this thing, but I'm also thinking about that. I know that these other sets of users are kind of nearby. I'm going to make sure that we're going to tailor it to those users because they also have use cases that I know what they are. What is the roadmap, right? How are they expecting to consume this, right? You can imagine all these things are very interrelated here. And finally, the one I'm most kind of passionate about because this has been like 15 years of my life working in semantics and knowledge graphs and everything is, what does this mean? So you talk about what is a customer. Well, give me the semantics, the meaning of what you mean by this word customer. Make that explicit. Give me this well-defined schema. Is there an ontology around these things? How is this mapped? What are the constraints? So we talk about contracts actually can show up as what are the constraints, the meaning that we're going to go enforce in this. And when you talk about the data mesh, it's all these connections and nodes, is how is this thing connected to other things? How could it be connected? Where are the documentations about this? So if we take these ABCs that we have there, I'm envisioning when we go in that Amazon shopping experience, right? We call it a data catalog, data discovery. You want to be able to go have the users will go in with an intent, and they're going to search for something. And what do you see usually on Amazon? You'll see on the left-hand side a faceted kind of type of browsing. That's where your knowledge is, your taxonomy of things. You'll get a bunch of rankings about, hey, people are reviewing how people are the stars that they have. You click on a particular product, you see a bunch of pictures, you see a bunch of descriptions around these. All these questions that I'm posing here should appear inside of your catalog tool that is presenting these data products. How is this connected? Is, hey, somebody bought this product, they also brought this other product. Well, hey, somebody who's using this data product actually joined it, used it with the other thing. Who's using this? I mean, in Amazon, you can go see who are the people asking these questions. I can see questions and answers and so forth. That's where we need to go towards. And technology is definitely needed for that, but we really need to start thinking about all these questions. And by the way, we don't have to go start with all of these questions, right? This is part of the culture within the organization. Which are the ones that you're going to go start with? And do I have to do all the ABCDs? I don't know. I will tell you that we literally came up with this like a couple months ago, putting this all together. So I think as a community, we're just figuring this stuff out. So that's, here's an example, right? We'll talk a user product, right? I mean, this is something that I'm playing around with our customers and stuff. Hey, accountability. So we're going to talk about users. Even this is all kind of some inside, like we're doing this at data.world, understanding our own data products. Who are the users? Well, the product engineering domain is going to be responsible for that. What are the boundaries? Look, these users are only going to be users who started in January 1st, and they're defined as people who have actually activated their account. That's the definition of user, right? The contracts, well, it's going to be near real time. It's 1 hour lag. It's going to start off in our Snowflake database. I mean, let's go start documenting these things. This needs to be explicit. This should actually show up in your data catalog tool. When people are searching for these things, you should be able to go find these things. And as we'll see later, we start monitoring them too, because this is going to evolve. All right, that's takeaway number 1. 2, we need to start finding that balance. I think we should start centralizing the things that are core to your business. Start small, we're going to go iterate. And then you're going to push everything to the domains. Omar Kajwala from Roche, from everybody I've spoken to, they're very advanced on their data mesh implementation. And he likes to say, we want to enable controlled chaos. So balancing the decentralization is start by defining that minimal core of things that is essential for your organization. And how do you know what those minimal core things are? Guess what? We got to talk to people. Let's literally, I ask this to everybody, even with us internal data.world. I'm like, what keeps you up at night? Just send me the question. And literally just go parse that question. This word keeps showing up. That word means a concept. That must be an important thing. I'm just seeing this over and over again. I think we start cataloging the questions, right? And when it comes to the most complicated aspect of the data mesh that people don't like to go talk about is the federated computational governance. You know what the most important word there for me is? Computational. All this stuff needs to be in code. And that's how we're going to keep monitoring and keep. So literally, let's go put things in code. And the code is, let's go use, there's well-established standards. Let's go reuse SQL for these things. I come from the web community, the semantic web community. There's all these standards around semantics, RDF, OWL, Shackle, they're done. You just go represent them in JSON and YAML, whatever, but go start representing what these things mean in code and literally put them in GitHub and keep monitoring that stuff, not just in a piece of paper that it gets lost. So balancing the centralization, decentralization is understanding that minimal core things, start with that, and then what you don't care about, let it get extended. So we're working with one customer, and for them, something that they, as a prototype that they started is, we want to go define what is a telephone number. There's no reason why we should start redefining telephone number. And for them, customer service is a really important thing. Telephone number, right? You have a country code, an area code, extension. There's only 3 types that we're going to keep track of this stuff. Phone numbers have to have voicemail permissioning. Oh, there's a thing called the mobile phone number. What is that? It extends from a telephone number where type must be mobile, and it inherits all the properties, and in addition, we'll say has to have a TCPA consent, meaning can I send a text message or not. I use that. It's well-defined. Guess what? You're going to go create a new application that involves telephone number. Why reinvent the wheel and define that scheme again? You just go reuse that. If that's a core thing. Takeaway 3, what happens when you start decentralizing things? We're going to generate chaos. And my point is, you know what? So be it. For the last 30 plus years, we've been thinking about we need to have a single source of truth. We need to boil the ocean, create the enterprise. And you know what? That's just not working. And we can keep trying finding ways to go do that. And that's just process all that stuff. Part of me is like, you know what? Let's just go the other way around. Let's just go embrace the complexity. Embrace it. And that complexity is a people thing. And what happens is that we need to when we're starting treating data as a product, we need to have product managers. We have this for software. Whoever designed this really nice anything, right? They actually did the research and talked to users and figured this out and designed it. There's product managers around that. We should do that also for the data. And then we need to start thinking about who are going to be these data product developers. And I think there's like these new types of roles. Go back to the 90s. AI winter hit a lot. We got the AI winter because we're trying to do all these expert systems and trying to go start acquiring knowledge, right? Knowledge acquisition. We got the knowledge acquisition bottleneck. But effectively, we did have these knowledge engineers who were trying to go understand what the experts were doing. I think that a lot of the knowledge engineering, the data modeling is a lost art. And we need to bring that back. How? I actually don't know, but we need to figure out how to bring that up into today's kind of modern data architecture we have. And I think something that we didn't do 20 plus years ago is that we weren't agile about it. We were all very waterfall. And I think this is where the agile has to come in. And the other thing is that people are very, a lot of the skeptics about data mesh and decentralizing, people say, you're now going to start duplicating the data. Well, yeah. You think there's only one water bottle product on Amazon? No. There's hundreds, if not thousands of them. Which one do you go buy? You do a little bit of the research, you focus on the one that has the best reviews, and then that's what you're going to go buy. And then at the end, the ones that are not getting good reviews, they're just going to go die. I think that's a mentality we need to start thinking about. So if you like I say, let's go focus where there's organizational friction. That friction means energy. So if people are arguing like, well, this is not the correct, like, this is different. Hey, let's go get those people in the room now. Let's go figure out what's going on. And if there's all these data products and nobody's complaining about this stuff, either two things. One, it's perfect, so just let it be. Or nobody cares, so just let it die. And that friction that we're finding is that, remember that balance between centralization and decentralization? We start with the minimal core things. We see all this friction. We keep cataloging this friction. And we realize, hey, maybe this thing that many different domains want, we should probably start centralizing that. And we extend that. That's the iterative agile approach that we need to go do. And hey, we're not comfortable with friction. We want to be able to control things. And especially kind of, if you look at the CDOs, right, and these come from governance, comes from control, command and control, and the shift that we're seeing now is about, if you're doing data stuff within an organization, it's so people can go use it. But obviously we're afraid of the control and how what people are going to go use it. I mean, if you don't want to have any problems, well, then make sure that nobody uses the data, then you're right, you're good. But then you went to one extreme. I'm kind of being controversial on purpose. Let's go to the other extreme, but at the end, again, find the balance that works best for you and your organization, your culture, your industry. Finance is going to be very different than some retail. Be agile. So we've been at Data.World, we've been pushing this whole notion of agile data governance for some time now. And I think we've just come, as I mentioned before, we come from this top-down governance, right? Because governance comes from regulatory, comes from the banking, right? BCBS 239, that's where a lot of these governance things came out. Because, oh, we're going to get fined, right? And how do you not get fined? You just say you got this tool, and that's not going to be fine. But then you're just doing this top-down. You're not really promoting the use of the data. That's what the agile data should be for. On our podcast, this comes up a lot. We say, why do you have brakes in a car? Usually people say to slow you down. No, the brakes should be to help you drive fast, safely. And that's the difference. You guys in the panel were saying earlier, it's like, oh, is the CDO being offensive or defensive? Like, it's both. But this is the mentality. People come from this mentality of being defensive. This is the change. So this is where Agile comes around. Right? And it's to be able to bring the best practices of Agile and open software development. So let's go separate. We have these different types of producers and consumers. By the way, from the technology perspective, I always say that like you have these tools, you need to understand who those consumers are. You talk about data catalogs. Well, there could be a catalog for a producer, a catalog for a consumer. Like, what is the lens of the catalog that you want to be able to go do? So this is a very important thing. Understand who your audience is. I was having lunch today with some folks from the London Stock Exchange, and we're saying we always go from left to right. Start with the data, the technology. We should go from right to left. Start with the business case, and really understand the business users and develop that backlog. And what I say is, we're a data catalog vendor. Right? I hate the word data catalog. It should be, honestly, should be called a data and knowledge catalog, because we should start cataloging the business questions, the metrics that people are thinking about, who are actually the people and what departments they're in. Let's go start cataloging these things. And you just put this in your catalog. You develop that backlog. And then you start, this is the job of the product manager, right? Understand, wait, what are we going to go do first? We're going to go set up some sprints. We're going to understand what is the value. We're going to go iterate on these things, collaborate, release early, peer review. This isn't rocket science. We've been doing this for software for so long. It's just time to bring this practice to data too. Now, here, we're going to start enabling the consumers. What is your adoption? What is your adoption plan? You're going to what? Just put data on Snowflake and say, hey, go have fun? And you can go discover it on your catalog and that's it? No, where's your ambassador? Who's accountable for your data saying, hey, we're investing in this data. I want this data to be used. And by the way, I'm making this data because you're asking for these requirements. I'm going to go back and check to you, see, is it working or not? If it's not working, what's going on? Let's go figure this out, right? You want to create a community of data. Now, once you start having this is where the two things kind of happen in parallel. One, your consumers are going to start actually start using the data, doing analysis, and start answering the questions. They may not be able to go answer the questions because they're missing something, whatever. And so therefore, your producers need to be learning around these things. They need to be measuring, auditing. How many are we getting the adoption that we expected? How are people using this or not? And from this, we learn, and then we're going to update the questions, and we're going to shift our priorities around this. So I think this is the type of agile process that I'm looking forward to seeing organizations start to define within their practices. So traditionally, we have the water, right? We have your waterfall approach, and really, you want all these things to be very use case driven. Finally, define your metrics. Measure. If you're just creating data products out for people, but you don't know who's using them, how they're using it, you're not creating a plan for this stuff. So how are you going to justify the investment? How are you going to get more budget to increase this? How are you going to get people more excited about what's going on? So many of these, so literally start tracking today. Oh, here's the other thing. Understand where people are today. So get your baseline today. How many employees are searching for data today? Do you know within the organization? Because if you don't know, that's not good. And you need to solve that problem right now. Because how do you know that if you have a north, how do you know that you're heading north if you don't know where you are today? How many employees are actually doing the self-service? How many data apps are actually connected to the data and solving these problems today? What are the adoption of not just the data, but the adoption of your BI tools, right? How many people do you establish a data community? How many people are in that data community? So I started out how to be agile in this data mesh world. 2 things I want you to remember. Treat data as a product. Look at those ABCs. And it's about finding the balance between centralization and decentralization that works best for your organization, for your culture, for the size of your company, for the industry. And that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 different takeaways. I think consuming data should be about, just like literally your experience on Amazon, centralize the things that are core, decentralize everything else. It's okay if there's friction. Embrace that complexity. That's going to help you figure out what needs to be centralized more. Be agile with your data governance, because data governance is about promoting the data, and define your metrics to track where you are today and where you want to go tomorrow. And with that, thank you very much.
Any questions? I'm sure you have questions on this topic.
I'll be here today, tomorrow, Wednesday.
We still have 3 more
Yeah.
minutes if you have questions. Yeah. I think everyone can feel your energy in the room.
Yeah, I second that. Your energy is contagious.
Thank you. But it looks like the recording didn't happen online.
Oh, man.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Encore.
I will do it again, for
Go
sure.
ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I second energy is contagious, insights are incisive. So I'm with KPMG, and if I tell my clients, who are mostly Fortune 100 companies, right, I'm selling you friction, I'm selling you control chaos, they're going to laugh at me and run away. And so, obviously we're here because we believe in the concept, right, and in the methodology. And if we're going to impact clients, 180 people at Data World probably need some help. So my question is, what are your strategies for how do we share this? How do we sell this to the CDO? Because my CDOs ask me usually 2 or 3 things. Who else amongst Fortune 100 has done this thing you're trying to sell me? What is the certification for this thing? And give me how many people are certified. And as far as I know, since Degani came out with this thing a few years ago, there's no certifications, right? And then the third thing, which is also unfortunate, what does Gartner Forrester say about this thing? Which is not good for us, right? So now combining all these 3 things, what do we do?
Yeah, so that's a longer discussion. I'll let Deco have you. I'll just say, the first thing you do is tie it to money. I'll give you an example. Tie it to money. Example, I work with a company called Prologis. Prologis is a large retailer, right? Prologis, right? You buy 80% of anything on Amazon, probably goes to Prologis warehouse. They defined their CEO mandate. Data quality is a CEO mandate. And you know what they're doing? 25% of everybody's bonus is on data quality. You work on the factory, you work at the warehouse, 25% of your bonuses. Well, what do? They tied, they started with a very particular use case, they tied things to money. What is the height of a building? I have a column that has the wrong data. If I don't know that, I don't know how many boxes I can pack. And I'm leaving money on the table, or I'm saying I can pack more and I can't, and that's gonna be a problem. They started with things like that. And they said, oh, look, we're tying it to money, and the culture change here is actually having a CEO who says, this is gonna be an organizational goal, and we're gonna tie carrot and stick. That's an example, and we can chat more offline, because there's more to go say about this. I know there's other questions. So.
Time for one more question. Go ahead.
So my question again, as a CDO, I continue to worry about this is data mesh has been popularized. Lakehouse has been popularized. Data vault was there before. Why keep naming all of these things? What's very different? Why naming?
I don't know. I didn't come up with the name. Don't ask me. I started the talk saying forget about the word data mesh and say, do you think treating data as a product is a good thing? Do you think about finding the balance between centralization and decentralization is a good thing? So that's it. Forget about data mesh.
That's what we are doing. But the argument comes in is, oh, are you doing data mesh then? No, I don't want to really endorse anything.
Again, this is why our podcast is called Honest, No BS, because we just got to say people, you know what? Let's be honest and no BS about it. Let's put that word aside and let's go into the brass tacks and let's go talk about what this stuff means. And just literally say, I don't want to talk anymore about the buzzwords. Let's dive into the details. And if you can't dive into the details with me, I don't want to go talk to you. That's it, honestly.
Yeah, whether it's mesh or fabric or
whatever mesh, I can go talk.
The underlying principles matter and what works for your organization ultimately, right? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We have to.
Thank you.